What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's the Game Week 13 preview. There's some pretty big topics to talk about. Chilwell replacements is the number one, I think. Then we've got Foden replacements as well. Is he going to be out this week? Should we be selling him? I'm going to discuss all that. Then I've got all your Q&A. We've got the suspension tightrope and all that kind of stuff as well. So if you enjoy it, give it a like. Hit that subscribe button if you're new around here as well. And don't forget to check out my 888 Sport article, which is linked down below if you want to get some of my written thoughts on some of these topics and more as well. Otherwise, let's jump into it. Okay, there's lots to dissect here, right? Let's talk about Chilwell replacements. Now, we still don't know, at least at the time of recording, right? You might be watching this on Friday when we've had Tuchel's press conference. We still don't know how long Chilwell is going to be out for, if at all. I'm assuming he's going to be. The reports in the media are that he could be missing until at least the end of the year. Now, up until January 2nd, there's 9 game weeks still to come. So that's a lot of game weeks to be missing. Therefore, he probably will need to be sold from our teams. I would definitely be planning right now to have to sell him and who you're going to bring in, which we're going to discuss in a minute. I really want to try and quickly at least touch on who is going to be Chilwell's replacement, because there's a lot of speculation that it's not going to be Marcus Alonso, not just in FPL, but I've seen like football media, basically non-FPL, also discussing who could play left wing back. Let me tell you, it's Marcus Alonso, right? I'm not a Chelsea fan. I'm not claiming to be. Maybe I'm missing something. But he's the guy that's played left wing back for Chelsea a lot and always plays left wing back for Chelsea when Chilwell's not around or injured or needs a rest. Will it be him, or will it be someone that's never played left wing back before? It could be someone else, right? Things change in football, things change in FPL, but Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi never played left wing back. Azpilicueta never played left wing back for Chelsea, apart from the little bit of time he came on in the Champions League, which Tuchel's already said he was supposed to come on for Reece James and yada, yada, yada. And Saul, who apparently has played left wing back for Atletico Madrid, has played 47 minutes of Premier League action this year. So let's just clear it up. It is going to be Marcus Alonso, right? I'm willing to bet money that it will be him. The question is, who do you bring in? Okay, so there's 3 Chelsea defenders on here, Rudiger, Alonso and James. I think James is the obvious long-term move. I do think, right, and this is not me trying to kind of sell Alonso to you or disregard James in any way, but if we can have a conversation for 2 seconds. For the next 2 weeks, right, that Watford game for a while has been one where I thought there could be rotation. As a Chilwell owner, I thought that was a time when Alonso could possibly come in. I'm not saying that Watford should be taken for granted or anything like that, but when you've got Man United and West Ham either side of that, and obviously there's another Champions League game to come as well, you would suspect that Watford game is probably the one they rotate. So I'm sitting here as someone who might have the money, depending on my other moves, to get James or Alonso. I want both long term, but for the next 2 weeks, Man United at home and then a quick turnaround to Watford away, who's more likely to play? And you can probably frame it both ways. Reece James, full of fitness, played a lot of minutes, but Alonso's had a bit of a rest. So does that mean he can play both games, or does that mean he needs minutes, or does that mean he can't play? It's hard to know, but there is maybe a conversation to be had about if you've not got Alonso or James and you want both, which way to structure bringing them in. I'm slightly leaning towards Alonso because I think there's a better chance that he definitely plays the next 2 games. Could be wrong, right? But Reece James is the obvious long-term pick. There's nothing particularly wrong with Rudiger. Like, his minutes are probably going to be the best out of all of these defenders. But in terms of attacking threat, he does have some. He's making those marauding runs. Obviously, he's a threat in the box from free kicks, set pieces. But you can see there his expected goal involvement is the lowest of all of these players. And bearing in mind, Marcus Alonso at 0.28 is below Reece James in terms of kind of attacking threat so far this season. But just maybe a little bit of context. It's probably not fair. I'm not writing off Reece James. It's more an argument for Alonso. 4 of his 6 games were Arsenal, although Arsenal weren't great that game. Liverpool, Spurs and Man City. So they've not necessarily been super easy games that he's had to play so far. So it's worth noting that. Traditionally, Alonso has been quite an attacking defender. And also, there's a lot of talk about how Alonso is limited from a defensive point of view, and some Chelsea fans think that might shackle Reece James a little bit. I don't know how much that's really going to happen because he's been in such good form. But maybe that's another reason to maybe go for Alonso first and then maybe get James later. But realistic answer is, if you want a Chelsea defender this week and you don't own Reece James, it probably should be him. Right? I'm not trying to tell you not to go for him. I'm just saying that I might go for Alonso first and then get James later. If you haven't got Trent, arguably he should probably be the one that's prioritised. If you think about fixtures this week, for example, Chelsea have got Man United, Liverpool got Southampton at home, and they've got a pretty nice fixture run over Christmas. And also, I just think Trent is less likely to get rotated than the likes of Reece James or Marcus Alonso. Again, it's hard to see who's going to play left wing back when Marcus Alonso is not there, because they don't have an out-and-out left wing back there. But I'm sure Tuchel will manage him at times, because they might need him for a lot of this season now. But with Trent, it just like Nico Williams can play there, James Milner can play there as well. But it's not ideal, right? It's not the same as Trent in any way whatsoever. So I think he probably is the priority move. Cancelo is still a really good move. Basically, you haven't got any of these defenders like Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City ones. You could definitely look to bring them in. With Reguilon, you do save a bit of money by going down to 5.1, but I just think when you go for him, you're really kind of relying on the next 3 fixtures. I mean, it's not that their fixture run is that difficult, but you're relying on defence being decent. Romero's going to be out for... It sounds like Romero could be out for a while, right? They've got to wait for even to scan it because of... I don't know if there's swelling or something, but they need a second scan before they can even tell how long he's going to be out for. It doesn't sound good, to be honest. And also, they're trying to learn a new system as well. They did concede to Leeds, obviously. Reguilon wouldn't necessarily be top of my list, but I don't think he's a bad option. But if I've not got Trent, I've not got Cancelo, I've not got James, I've not got Alonso, they're probably the 4 that I'd want, and you could even throw Rudiger into that. So there's lots of options. Trent is probably the one that I would want this week if I didn't own him. Cancelo, keep starting. Man City got great fixtures over Christmas. Again, they were really good against PSG as well. They kind of shackled for a lot of it. I mean, I know Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe didn't really track back and help too much. But even in attack, they did kind of shackle them and the team in general quite well. There were obviously times for the counter. PSG did score. But they're not going to face that level of competition a lot in the Premier League over the next few weeks. So the top 3 are the ones to go for. I mean, there's a big case. If you've got the top 3 in Chilwell, then Chilwell to Alonso just seems like the most no-brainer transfer you'll probably get all season. I just don't think... Famous last words, you can clip this up when he doesn't start. I just don't see anyone but Alonso starting. Let me know below, who are you replacing for Chilwell? I might go to Alonso first and get Reece James later, just to endure that pain for a little bit longer. Let's talk about Foden replacements. Now, it is worth noting that different to Chilwell is, with Chilwell, I think he's definitely going to be out. Foden could be back this weekend. Again, we're going to have to wait and see what's said in the press conference. This is what was said last night before the Champions League game with PSG from Pep Guardiola. So he said, Phil had a problem in the last game against Everton. So he did come off early, if you remember. So when he came off early, I thought, okay, he's saving him. His first choice wants him for the Champions League game. But actually, he must have had a knock, right? He didn't recover. Yesterday in training, he didn't feel good and he's not able to play. Now, obviously, that was a game on Wednesday. Their next game, actually, let me just quickly look. Is it on Sunday? Yeah, it's on Sunday, right? So he's got a little bit of time to get ready for that game, and we'll see what Pep says. Pep might say that, right? We'll wait and see what happens before Sunday. So for some people, maybe it's a good excuse to get rid of him because they're a little bit frustrated. I do think it's worth saying, right, that he is getting minutes. He has started 8 games in a row now. And I think when any Man City player gets minutes, they've got a tendency to get points as well. So I know that he's been playing wide, but I don't think we should just suddenly say, well, a couple of games he's played really wide, therefore he's going to do it. He's not going to have any goal threat, etc. So I just don't think that's the case. And the fixtures they just look really nice for Man City. There is going to be some rotation, right? That's the only thing that's on my mind. But is that any different to any other player? Like he and Bernardo Silva and even Gundogan to a certain extent, they do kind of look first choice and like they're going to get a lot of starts over this kind of period of games, right? Pep's still got to pick a team. You can't just rotate the whole squad every single week. So for what it's worth, if Pep says that Foden is fine for this week, you can easily make a case to keep him. If you do want to sell him, the list of replacements is a little bit weird. It's like if you've already got Jota, there's not really a massive standout, I would say. So for me, if I sell Foden this week, 100% it will be for Jota. Again, let's wait and see what Klopp says in the press conference about Jota. Hopefully he'll get asked, but I think he was on the bench last night for the Champions League game. So he's the most obvious replacement. It's almost a no-brainer while Firmino's out. The question, when will Firmino be back? I don't know, right? There's not really been any update yet that I've seen. Other options, I feel like they've all got slight problems with them. Apart from maybe Gundogan and Bernardo Silva are the way to go. I just think I've talked about attacking threat, right? And how, Bernardo Silva played up front against PSG, but that was more from a defensive point of view to then press from the front, with Zinchenko, weirdly enough, in like a 4-4-2. But when he was on the attack, a lot of the times he does drift wide. He is happy to go and pick the ball up. And it tends to be someone like Gundogan that then makes the late runs. And you can kind of see that from the expected goal involvement there. Gundogan's 0.6, Bernardo Silva's 0.35. I just feel like Gundogan gets into the right positions in the box more often. Bernardo Silva does make those runs in there, but I feel like he's more likely to have picked the ball up and be wide and to be playing the ball into the box to someone like Gundogan. Now, again, I can't sit here and tell you that they're definitely going to play every single game over the next kind of 6 to 7. But if you want to just straight sort to a Man City player, they are probably the two. And right now, I'd probably side with Gundogan. Elsewhere, possibly, you could buy Arsenal players because they got Newcastle at home this week. Then Man United away, which isn't great. And then the fixture runs Everton, Southampton, West Ham, Leeds, Norwich. It's not that bad. And if you wanted to save a bit of money, you could just go all the way down to Smith Rowe. It is worth saying Saka's numbers are still slightly better than Smith Rowe's. And at some point, he might start converting them into FPL points. But right now, saving the money on Smith Rowe might be the option. Just to kind of mention some players not on the list. Then you've got Bowen. It just feels like the wrong time to buy him with Man City and Chelsea in the next 3, right? I mean, people are even thinking about getting rid of Antonio, so I don't think it's the right time to bring in West Ham players. Although from kind of game week 18 onwards, he does look really good. Rafinha, again, should be back from injury, we hope. Again, we'll have to wait and see what Bielsa says. There's a lot of riding on press conferences this week, of course, but he's back in training, so I think he'll probably be okay. The problem with Leeds, I guess, is the good fixtures are starting to run out, and they do really have some bad fixtures over Christmas. So Brighton away, Palace at home, Brentford at home. Pretty decent, right? And if Bamford can get back soon as well, that will be good for Rafinha. But then they literally play Chelsea away, Man City away, Liverpool away in 4 games. This ain't a good run. I just think Rafinha owners are almost in dreamland because they're going to get him for the next 3, and people that don't own him are probably going to be put off buying him. I probably wouldn't go for him. Then you've got Gallagher or Zaha. Zaha's got penalties, so maybe that helps, although there has been a lack of penalties so far this season. I think it all depends on whether you think Gallagher's numbers will fall down or not. Like, Zaha's numbers have kind of been steady over the last few years. Is Gallagher going to keep up? Is he going to keep making those late runs into the box? Again, Gallagher saves you a bit of money, so maybe he is the best option to go for rather than going for Zaha. But I don't think we should completely write Zaha off. And also, Crystal Palace's fixtures just are pretty good, which is why I would look at them. So Villa at home, Leeds away, Man United away, okay, that may or may not be a great fixture. Everton at home, Southampton at home, Watford away. Again, for the next kind of 6, you can just kind of get in your Crystal Palace player and almost set and forget them. So from this list, I think Jota is the best option. I don't think I'd be buying Bowen or Rafinha. Now, I can't believe I'm saying about Rafinha. Maybe it's because I sold him, I don't know, subconsciously. But I don't think right now is the time to buy Bowen and Rafinha. So if you want to stick with Man City, I think I'd go for Gundogan. Otherwise, I'd probably look at an Arsenal or a Crystal Palace player, and probably Gallagher and Smith Rowe if you want to save the money and put it into defence instead. So someone asked me to cover kind of yellow cards that players are on. So if a player gets 5 yellow cards before game week 19, they miss a match, right? So, interestingly enough, I'm pretty sure I just saw that Dennis at Watford has already had 6 yellow cards. So, he's already served the suspension. So, there's not too many names on this list to worry about, because I think if a player's got 3, that should not put you off. For what it's worth, for anyone that's been playing FPL for a while, you'll remember, if I just say Diego Costa, you'll know what I mean. He was on 1 yellow card from a suspension for like 6 weeks or something crazy like that, and people like me didn't bring him in because of it, and he went on to smash goal after goal after goal. So it shouldn't necessarily put you off, but it's worth thinking about. Callum Wilson, I think, is the biggest name on there because he's got some good fixtures coming up. People might want to go for him. So if he gets 1 more yellow card, he's out. Luke Shaw, I just don't think people are going to be going for Man United defence anytime soon. Duffy, for anyone that's got him on the bench who's hoping, for him to be a bench option over Christmas, just keep in mind he might miss a game at some point, as well as Laporte. And I guess Benteke, Gallagher, Cancelo are all players, and Bernardo Silva as well, that people are looking to possibly bring in, but 3 yellow cards just wouldn't put me off. So right now, there's not a huge amount to worry about, but they've got to kind of stay off the 5 yellows before game week 19, basically. All right, let's go into some questions. So we kind of mentioned Dias on the transfer tips video, but I think a little bit's changed now with the with the Chilwell injury, not Alonso. Hopefully he's not injured anyway. So should I sell Dias even if I already own James Cancelo and Trent Alexander-Arnold? So my opinion hasn't massively changed on this. You don't have to sell him this week. Like if you look at Man City's fixture, West Ham at home, Is that better than Chelsea's fixture of Man United at home? I mean, probably, usually, maybe not right now, but I don't think it's such a bad fixture or it's such a big pull to go to the Chelsea defenders that you have to sell Dias this week, especially if you've only got one free transfer. You could just hold on to him and then wait and see what happens next week with 2 free transfers and maybe make you move then. I think you could, I wouldn't say a trap, but you could fall into a position where they've got such good fixtures, you just hold on. You just end up talking yourself into holding on to him. But I think Dias to Alonso long term, if Chilwell's out for a while, looks like a pretty good move. I mean, everyone was on Trent, Cancelo, James, and Chilwell anyway. So just swap Chilwell to Alonso and just be done with it. It just doesn't seem like there's any reason to back against those 4 players. But for this week, you've only got 1 free transfer. You could just keep Dias if you've held on this long anyway. But otherwise, Dias to Alonso as a long-term or a medium to long-term move still looks pretty good to me. I can't remember a season where there's been so many defender questions. It's just the template and the meta right now in FPL. So with regards to the Chilwell news, what are your thoughts on going 5 at the back? Trent, Cancelo, Rudiger, James and Alonso. Seems fine. I don't see any real reason not to have it. It doesn't mean you have to play all 5 at the back every single week, but if you are someone that hasn't gone to Kane or hasn't got Ronaldo, you've probably got a little bit more money to spend. And right now, this does feel like a bit of a squad game in FPL where people are just spreading the funds. They were doing it a few weeks ago. A lot of people have continued to do that, and they're in a great position. Like, I've got Kane. It really feels like I'm being limited on what I can do with my moves. And again, it feels like I'm going to get a little bit left behind. So I don't have any problem with 5 at the back. The only thing you could possibly change if you didn't want to go for 3 Chelsea defenders is swap one of Rudiger or Alonso, depending on what risk you kind of want to take, because obviously Alonso might miss some minutes and Rudiger may be less prone to rotation out of all the Chelsea defenders. You could swap one of them to another Man City defender. The problem is which ones you go for, right? Because Dias, I didn't talk about this with Dias, but I don't think he's suddenly going to become like this constantly rotated player. But it does show that Pep is happy to play Stones and Laporte. So you could go to Dias or even Kyle Walker. Like, Zinchenko played last night against PSG, but he played up front pretty much until he came off. In a 2 with Bernardo Silva. Like, it was pretty crazy. At least when they were defending anyway. When they attacked, it kind of went a little bit more fluid. But you could go for maybe Kyle Walker over Rudiger or Alonso, just to have 2 Man City defenders and 2 Chelsea defenders. But realistically, there's nothing wrong with those 5 that you've picked. There's nothing wrong right now with being 5 at the back. And I'm actually not sure what's going to change that. The only thing I think that really shakes up the current template in a big way is Salah going to African Cup of Nations, because the fixture, he needs a bad fixture run. He just doesn't have it. And even so, like, he's done well against Chelsea. He scored, I think he's actually scored against Chelsea, Man United and Man City all this season so far. So it's going to take a lot for people to switch the armband off him. Obviously, not being in the country will be one of those things. And until then, it makes it very difficult to make a big case for the likes of Kane and Ronaldo as value players if you're not going to be using the captaincy on them regularly. So 5 at the back, I just don't know what's going to change that right now. It just looks too good, and there really is no reason not to work towards it. At some point, I'm going to have to go at least 4 at the back, and I would not be against long-term 5 at the back. I just think it depends on your squad. I don't think, if you're like me and it's difficult to get to 5 at the back anytime soon, and there's other moves you want to make, like getting Jota in, etc., then I don't think you need to pull apart your team to do it. But if you're close to it, or you can get to it, 5 at the back this is, I don't see any problem with it. I think every week there's a question around Ronaldo, right? Thoughts on Ronaldo, should us owners keep him? Usually my answer is just keep hold of him. And I've got to be honest, I think the answer is kind of the same this week. Now, it depends on who you're looking to bring in, right? If you're looking to bring in Kane, I just wonder if I don't think the boat has completely been missed. I mean, you haven't missed anything, right? He's blanked as well, Kane last week. But the amount of really good fixtures that Kane has are obviously starting to kind of die down a little bit. I suppose it depends how much you want to captain him in game weeks 14 and 15. But again, like, there's not really any reason you couldn't captain Salah against Everton and Wolves. Yes, Spurs have better fixtures, but Liverpool are just looking so good this year, and Salah is just in unbelievable form that you could just captain him, right? He just looks so good. So I don't even know if you need to make this Ronaldo to Kane switch, because yes, okay, Man United got Chelsea away. That's a really difficult game this week, especially the way they're playing. I'll come on to that in a minute. And Arsenal at home maybe isn't that much better, but Man United are going to be up for that at Old Trafford. And then the good fixture run kind of carries on. So for me, I don't even think it's a Ronaldo to Kane question now. I think it's are you happy with the structure of your team? Are you able to get the players you want? Or is having that second premium striker limiting you too much? Now, again, I keep saying this. For some people, you might have Salah, you might have the back four defenders that everyone's on already, and you might have Ronaldo as well and Jota, and you're just happy with the rest of your squad. And that's fair enough, right? You might have a bit more team value. But again, if you're someone like me, I keep saying that, who doesn't necessarily have the structure correct or hasn't jumped on enough players early, then having Ronaldo might be a hindrance right now unless you're willing to captain him in some of those games. But again, just to reiterate for about the 15th time over the last couple of weeks, these are the fixtures where you're really going to want to think about it. Norwich away, Brentford away, maybe Brighton at home, Newcastle away, right? These 4 fixtures, maybe even 5, maybe even game week 20 as well. So 16 to 20. And you look at Salah's fixtures in the same boat. Well, you're definitely going to captain Salah in game week 19, game week 17 and game week 16. How much is Ronaldo worth to just captain him in those other fixtures? And in game week 18, it's Brighton at home anyway, so I wouldn't expect Man United to really cause too many issues. So I don't think Ronaldo is necessarily needed right now, but I also don't think you necessarily need to sell him to Kane anyway, especially if you're just going to keep the captain's armband on Salah. I would just save a transfer and reassess down the line. So ultimately, I would probably keep him. With Man United, they got the win against Villarreal. They were much better in the second half than the first half, although the standards were quite low from the first half. I still think there's problems there until a new manager comes in with fresh ideas and starts mixing things up a little bit. I just don't know how often Man United are going to play well from an attacking sense. Obviously, the penalties are dried up a little bit as well, which isn't helping them. Because last year, like their non-penalty XG this year versus last year is not that much different. The big difference so far, really, or a lot of it is, there's not been as many penalties as last year. But I still think Ronaldo will do okay. Like, he always comes in clutch. He's always going to get goals, even if Man United aren't playing well. And maybe the win against Villarreal is what they needed. I wouldn't expect much against Chelsea, but after that, the fixtures are quite good. So yes, short summary. Probably keep Ronaldo right now. Start making that decision about whether you want that premium spot, you want to keep him long term, or if you're going to sell him. There we go. Let me know what you think of everything I've said. Anything you disagree, agree with, leave it in the comments below. Give the video a like and hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. Don't forget to check out Patreon if you haven't already as well. Big shout out to Brian P and William C who have signed up since the last video as well. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. I think I'll do... I'm not going to do Capsy tomorrow. I think Salah is obviously the standout again. If you want to go different, fair enough. But it's hard to look past Salah at home to Southampton. So he will definitely be my captain this week unless somehow he gets injured between now and then. And yeah, we'll probably do a final thoughts video at some point tomorrow. Maybe even the 2000 FPL managers video tomorrow. Let me see what comes about between now and then, but we'll decide. So yeah, give this one a like, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you again soon.